All right, so today we're going to learn about combining CSS selectors, and then also we're going to learn about um, divs and whatnot. So let's get started. So yesterday we learned about selecting elements with CSS, right? So we have H1 color blue that just selects by tag, right? So you're selecting every H1 element. We have select by class. Use a period, and then you have the class name. That's select by class, right? And then we have select by ID with the hashtag. We learned that yesterday. And we can get even more specific with our selectors, right? So we already learned about, again, we already learned about classes. We also already learned that you can add a tag before a class name. So only specifically targets the this specific element or this specific tag with this specific class, right? So it only targets H1 tags that are also in the logo class, right? That's what this is going to do. And then it's going to make the font style italic, right? We can make it even more specific. So you can make it so that, remember we learned how we can have multiple classes in a, like one tag or element can have multiple classes just by using a space. So you can target multiple of those classes, but just saying like dot logo dot important, that means you're targeting both the logo class and important class. Okay. You guys always know that I'm going to turn off the um, whiteboard, so I don't know why you guys bother, but I guess I'll have to do it as well now. Disable. Okay. So what this is going to do, right? What this is going to do is it's going to target heading tags, heading elements that are both in the logo class and also in the important class, and then make them italic. So I disabled annotation. I don't know why it's still showing. Um, okay, so the rule is not going to apply to this, right? Can someone tell me why this is not going to work? Why this is not going to be italic? Still on. Zoom not working. I clicked disable. Okay, there we go. So why is this not going to be italic? So why is hello not going to be italic? Someone tell me why hello is not going to be italic? Yeah, so it doesn't have the class important, right? Hello does this first one doesn't have the tag class important, right? It's empty. But the second one, let's take a look at the second one. The second one is going to apply because look, it has a space in the middle, which is how we differentiate the class names, right? And it has both the class name logo and also the class name important. So it is going to apply to this element, right? And this is only going to apply to headings that have the logo class and also the important class. And we can also combine our CSS selectors like we mentioned before. So let's say we only want to select these image tags, right? in the paragraph tag, what we could do is we can make a class called paragraph image or whatever. We can name a class whatever we want to specifically style this image, right? To specific and add that class to specifically these two images. But what if we do something else? Let's notice that both of these images are in paragraphs, right? So what if we only select images that are inside of paragraphs, and that way we can only target these two images. So let's look at even more CSS combinators, and they're going to combine simple selectors and make more specific selectors, right? So there's 3 different combinators. You probably have no idea what this is, so we'll go more into it later. But descendant selector, child selector, next sibling selector. So let's get into what they're called. So remember we saw that tree, I think day 2, I believe. It was around day 2, day 1 or day 2. We saw a tree, right? And I was like, you don't have to worry about it. Well, now you might have to worry about it if you don't fully understand. So descendants are everything inside of an element. Children is one level inside of an element. A parent is the element directly above an element, and a sibling are elements that share the same parent. And you guys probably have no idea what this means, so let's talk about that. So we see this tree structure, right? Remember we saw this tree structure on day 2, I believe. So the HTML is the parent here, and the head and body are the children of HTML. And then the title is the child of head, and H1 is the child of body. So we can see that head and body, they're one level, like one level inside of an element, right? So head and body are one level inside of the HTML tag. So we can see here, yeah, we can see there's the head and body are children of the HTML tag because they're one level below it. And then the title is one level inside of the head tag, right? So the title is the child of the head. We can see that in this structure here. The title is one level below the head tag. Why? Because the head tag is enclosing the title tag, right? The title tag is fully enclosed by the head tag. So the head tag is like fully enclosing this. So it's a child. And the heading 1 here is the child of the body tag because it is fully enclosed by the body tag. And both of these, the body tag and the head tag, are children of the HTML tag. And what do we call 2 children that have the same parents? Don't even think about coding. What do you call 2 children that have the same parents? Siblings, yes. So that makes the head and body tag siblings, right? And let's say we added another tag here that was like H2 or something like that. Then that would be the sibling of H1 then, because they both have the same parent. So you can think of it that way. Oh, and we can see here I don't even have to create my own H2 tag. Both of these H1 tags here are siblings, right? And they both have the same parent, which is the body tag. And all of these, so this entire thing are the descendants of a head tag. So if you think about it, your grandparents are the descendants of your great-grandparents, your parents are the descendants of your grandparents, and you are the descendants of all of them, right? So think about it. You are the descendants of your great-grandparents, you are the descendants of your grandparents, you are the descendant of your parents. The same way, the children of the body tag are also descendants of the HTML tag because they descended from the HTML tag. Some people also call them grandchildren, right? But once you get into more and more layers, it's going to become, you can't keep going, can't keep calling them like great, 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 great grandchildren, right? So we just like to call these descendants. So H1 is a descendant of HTML, and all of these are descendants. So even like the children of HTML is also its descendants, right? So the head and body are children of HTML, and they're still its descendants, right? So these are all descendants of HTML, and these are the children of HTML, like we just talked about. And these are the grandchildren of the HTML element. So we just said how some people refer to them as grandchildren. However, once you get deeper and deeper into the structure, let's say inside of the H1 there was like a link or something or whatever, it's going to become harder and harder to think about it in simple terms. So we just like to say descendants. And these are also children of the body element. So these are both descendants of the body element and children. So children are descendants, right? But descendants don't have to be children. So children are descendants, but descendants don't have to be children. And then body is the parent of H1. It's also the parent of this H1, right? Not just this one, also this one. And then HTML is the parent of body, right? HTML here is the parent of the body, which is inside of it. Hopefully that all makes sense. Um, so selecting descendants, right? Having a space here means that we are expecting this image tag to be a descendant of the paragraph tag. What does that mean? Let's take a look. So let's have an image tag, right? Then we have a paragraph tag, yada, yada. Then let's say we have another image tag inside of this paragraph tag. Let's call this image1. Let's call this image2. Which image? Which image is going to be selected by this? Someone, can you guys tell me in the chat? Image1 or image2? Yes, it is image2 because image2 is inside of the paragraph, right? Image2 is a descendant of the paragraph. Now let's go on to something a little trickier. Oh, let's select this. Let's add something inside of the paragraph. I don't know why, but let's say there's a heading inside the paragraph. Or no, let's say there's a div inside the paragraph. If you guys don't know what a div is yet, don't worry about it, but I'm going to put a div inside of here, right? You don't need to know what a div is to answer this question. Then inside of this div, we're going to have another image. Is this second image? Oh, what is happening? Uh, image 2. And let's make this image 3. Is image 3 going to be targeted by this or no? Yes or no? See a lot of yeses. The answer is yes. Why? Because this image, even though it's not one level inside, it's not one level inside the paragraph tag, it's still a descendant of the paragraph tag, right? So we're still going to target it with this. So yeah. So this rule does not apply to the image element, right? It does not apply to this image element because this image element is not in a paragraph tag. It's outside of a paragraph tag. But these two are going to be applied because they are inside of a paragraph tag. So this one is going to be a link that is inside of a paragraph tag, right? So it's only going to apply to links that are inside of paragraph tags. This one, actually, hold up. I want you guys to tell me in plain English what this one does. Some of you guys probably already saw the text, but most of you guys probably did it. Tell me in plain English, what is this selecting? Like, make it a bit more detailed, you know? Tell me exactly what is this selecting? It's something more specific than just a class, right? It's more than just a class. Okay, I think Yakshida got it, and also Kundan got it. Let me write it so it makes more sense. Let's say I have a paragraph. Inside here, I have a link. And then I'm going to end it with a closing tag. Can someone tell me, is this going to be affected by this? So I see a mix of yeses and nos. No spamming, guys, but the answer is no, because we did not give it a class. Now let's change this. Let's say the paragraph tag has the class footer, right? That is not the right. There we go. Now is it going to be affected? All right, so yes, now it's going to be affected because we have the class footer. This link is a descendant of the class footer, right? It's a descendant of an element that has the class footer. What about now? I'm going to change this to a heading 1. Is this still going to be affected? Yes, it's still going to be affected, right? Because it's still inside of it doesn't matter what the tag is. We never specified what the tag is. If it said h1.footer, then yeah. I mean, if it said p.footer, then yeah, this wouldn't be right. But it doesn't matter what the tag is. So it doesn't matter if this is an h1, doesn't matter if it's a paragraph, doesn't matter if it's a div. Actually, yeah, no, it wouldn't. Okay. So now let's clear this. All right, so let's also select descendants, right? So, and today's going to be a very long class, all right? Morning class, we actually ended up going to like literally like 5 minutes before class ended. So it was like 55 minutes long. So yeah, selecting descendants. What is this going to do? Can someone tell me? You don't know what a div is? Doesn't matter. Um, a class named footer in a div. Yes. So all this is let's say I have a div here. Let's say then in here I have doesn't have a closing tag. Right? Then we have slash div, right? Let's elongate this so it's easier to read. And now let's label these. Where's my pen tool? There it is. All right. 1, 2, and 3. Paragraph spelled wrong. Yeah, but it doesn't affect any of the code, does it? All right, let me do a quick. Actually, I don't need to do a poll because then I have to leave the screen share. Just tell me in the chat, what do you guys think? So is it 1, 2, or 3? Which one's going to be targeted? None. I'm not sure about none. Getting some mixed answers here, but most people are saying 3. The answer is 3. It's not 1. Why is it not 1? Because 1 is not inside of a div, right? Look, this is outside of a div. This H1 is not a descendant of a div. Therefore, it is not going to be selected by this, right? Now let's take a look at the rest of these. This one's not going to be selected because this is an ID. Remember, for an ID, we use hashtag. So if we wanted it to be ID, we'd have to put a hashtag here. But it's not a hashtag, it's a period. So again, this is not going to work because it has an ID here. This one is going to work, right? This one is going to work because it has that class footer and is also inside of a div. It's inside of a div, it's a descendant of a div, and it has the class footer. That's what this is saying, right? This is saying it has to be a descendant of a div, and it has to have the class footer, which we know because it has that period right there. Right? All right, let's move on to the next slide. Oh yeah, no quotes. Oh, you're right, I didn't put quotes. That is my fault. Um, but yeah, if I put quotes there, it would work, right? All right, now that would work. I'm just used to the autocomplete, you know? Makes life much easier. All right, clear all drawings. Move on to the next slide. So it is technically was none, but that's just if you ignore the spelling mistakes, it's going to be number 3, right? All right, this is going to select children. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover this up again, and then we're gonna have div slash div. We're gonna learn div later, right, guys? Div have a link out here. Going to have a link here. And then we're going to have a heading, paragraph. And then we're going to have a link here as well. So, all right. Do you guys think it is 1? Do you guys think it is 2? Or do you guys think it's 3? Or maybe is it multiple of them? Maybe it's all of them. All right. No need to spam, guys. I don't want to have to disable the chat, but I can if I have to. Right? But the answer is 2. The answer is 2, right? And why is it not 3? Can someone tell me why it's not 3 without spamming? Yeah, okay, I think Arjun said it best because it's a descendant, right? It's not a child. So a child is like one level behind, right? So if you want to think about it in like exact terminology, this is the grandchild of the div, right? Because it's two levels inside the div. But in the first level, we have the paragraph tag and we have the A tag. So these are on the first level. So this is what's going to be considered the children. This is not a child. This is a descendant. And when we're doing this, this is going to specifically target children only, right? Not descendants. If we have a space, it targets descendants as well. So it targets children and descendants because children are descendants, right? But not all descendants are children. So let's write this out, right? And I'm iterating this because my first class they didn't realize this at first. So children equals descendants, but descendants, I don't know how to spell it, whatever, is not children, right? So children are descendants, but descendants are not children. All right, let's move on to the next one. Why does that make no sense? Okay. Are you the children of your grandparents? No, you're not the child of your grandparents. You're a descendant of your grandparents, but you're not the child of your grandparents. You're the child of your parents. And your parents are, if you want to think about it in coding, your parents are like one level above you in terms of coding, right? So this is your grandparents, this is your parents, and this is you, right? So your parents are one level above you. Your grandparents are two levels above you. You are not the children of your grandparents, right? Your parents are in between there. Okay. Um, so the rule applies to these, right? It applies to these because these are children of this div, but it doesn't apply to this link and also not this link because this link is completely outside of the div, right? So you don't even consider it. This one is a descendant of a div, but not a child of the div, so it's not going to apply to that either. Selecting children, so this selects all the H6 tags that are immediate children of the div tags, right? And that div tag also has to have the class footer. So if I write this out, div, okay, div slash div H6. Is this going to be selected? Yes or no? Okay, you guys got it. The answer is no, because this doesn't have the class footer. Now let me add this. Now is it going to be selected? So the answer is still no, right? Because this is an ID, not a class. Whenever we use a period, we're talking about classes, right? Now finally, this is going to be selected, right? Now that we changed it to this is going to be selected. Guys, I don't want to have to remove chat privileges. I can make it polls. I can just make it polls, but it's going to be more boring. So, what do you guys say? No spamming? All right. Um, so what is this going to do? It is going to, can someone tell me in plain English what they think this is going to do? Yeah, so it has to be the child of an of the ID menu bar. So let me write this out. So let's say we have an unordered list. You guys remember unordered lists, right? And inside of that, I have li tag. And then here I have the ID menu bar. I forgot to have the closing tag. So this list element is going to be targeted, right? Because it's a child of the ID menu bar. But what if I have something inside of this child or inside of this list element, right? Let's say inside of the list, I have another unordered list. And inside of that, there's another list element. Is the second list element going to be targeted? In other words, is this list element going to be targeted? The answer is no, right? Because again, like we learned, it's a descendant. It's not even a grandchild. This is actually a great grandchild, right? But we're not going to say great grandchild. We're going to say it's a descendant. So it's not the child, but this list element is going to be included. This list element is going to be included because it's part of this. It's a child of the something with an ID menu bar. And this doesn't have to be an unordered list, right? This could be like, I don't know why I'd have an li in a paragraph, but this could be a paragraph. And this would work. It just needs that ID. It just needs the ID menu bar. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So what is this going to do? This is going to select the next sibling, right? So it's going to select an h2 tag that immediately follows an h1 tag. So if we take a look here, this h2 tag comes right after an h1 tag, right? And we know they're siblings. Why? They are not enclosing each other. They're on the same level. So we remember we learned about levels. They both have the same parent. So in this case, the parent is going to be the body tag, right? So imagine there was the body tag here. And then down here, there was also the body tag. These are the children of the body tag, right? So H1 and H2 are siblings. And H2 is right after H1. That is what the plus means. This means this is right after that. So it's going to select this one, but it's not going to select this one. Why is it not going to select this one? Because this one comes after a paragraph tag, right? It does not come right after the H1 tag. It comes right after a paragraph tag, and therefore this one is not going to be selected by the plus. So the rule does not apply to this H2 element, right? What about the paragraph tag? Let me go back. What paragraph? The paragraph tag isn't even mentioned here. I'm not sure why the paragraph tag would be. So this H2 is not going to be selected, right? It's not going to apply because it's not right after an H1 tag. What this is saying is that it's only going to select the H2 tag that is right after an H1 tag. It's not going to select the H1 tag, just the H2 tag. That has to be right after the H1 tag. So this is going to select a paragraph tag that's right after a paragraph tag. So what is this going to look like? What is happening? A paragraph. Why is it capital? So it's going to select this paragraph only, right? It's only going to select that paragraph in the middle. Actually, no, sorry, I did it wrong. This is wrong. Completely wrong. This is completely wrong. Is actually going to select this one, right? So it has to be right after. It can't be a child. It has to be siblings, sorry. So yeah, has to be right after the previous paragraph tag, and they have to be siblings. So in the last thing we saw, why was it wrong? because they were one of the paragraph tags was a child, right? If they're not right after each other, then it's not going to work, right? We saw it here earlier. Um, we saw with the earlier one, right? Well, it's not letting me go to my mouse. We saw with this one, this H2 is not right after the H1, so it's not going to be affected by this. So again, what is this saying? This is just saying that it's a H1 after a header class element, right? So again, they're both siblings. All right, so now let's go into divs. You guys are asking me what divs are, what are divs? Let's talk about divs. And we probably won't have time for a game kit today. So we know we can use CSS to style groups of elements, right? So we can use CSS to select groups of elements and then style them. So what if we wanted to select several different elements and apply the same style to all of them? So one option is to give them all the same class name, right? But that's going to get tedious after a while. Everything you want to apply, like let's say you have like a box of something and you want to apply the same styles to all of that. It's going to get tedious if you keep saying like class equals, class equals, class equals. So the second option is to just put all of your elements inside of a single div element and then style that div, right? So you're going to style the div that you put all the elements inside of. And so the div tag defines a division or section of an HTML page, and it simply groups a block of elements together so that we can format them with CSS. So let's look at some examples. There's also spans, right? Spans are kind of similar to divs. So we know we can use divs to group together a block of elements and style them, right? So this is what a div looks like. A div is literally a block. So we can see this is like a block. Inside the block, we have the text, right? And we can change the orientation of that text by specifying it in the div itself. We can also add background colors to the divs, which we'll take a look at. And so divs are just full block elements on the page. And they have line breaks. You see these are separated, right? These are separated because there are line breaks before and afterwards. So what if we don't want to create a brand new block, right? We don't want to create a block. We don't have to have line breaks because you can't just have line breaks in a random paragraph if you want to style like a specific portion of that paragraph. So instead, another way to group together elements without creating any new lines is something called a span. It's the span tag, right? And it's used to group together inline elements on the page to add style. So you guys kept asking me, what if we want to change just like one word in the heading and make it bigger? Well, that's what the span tag is for, right? It does, the div tag does make it a lot simpler actually. So anyways, the span tag creates no visual change to the page on its own, and it's just to select a group of elements that then we can then style with CSS. So a span is very similar to a div, but it creates no new lines, and it's used to section like style specific parts of text, so like one word in the heading or a group of words or whatever, right? So now let's go to the Code.js editor and take a look at what that looks like. Sandbox, day 7 afternoon. All right, so HTML, body. You have to have head before the body. All right, now let's create a new style sheet. Style.css. we go over here. Remember, we use the link tag, so we go link relationship equals style sheet, type equals text/CSS, href equals style.css. Click save, reload. Now there's nothing on our web page. Let's have a heading, h1. This is, let's just make it STEM-bridged, okay? Save, reload. Our heading STEM-bridged is there. I hate this heading. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to h1. I'm going to say font family. I forgot the different font families. I think sans serif is one, I believe. Yeah, it is. Okay. I'll change the color to dark gray. Is that a color? It's not. Let's just change the font size. Let's just change the color to gray, actually. Save, reload. We see here, we have gray text that says STEM-bridged, and the color is gray, right? Now, let's go ahead, add a, actually, let's do something. Let's have another h1. Let's have a paragraph underneath this, right? We're going to say offering free courses forever. Technically, not supposed to have that there, but whatever. We have a h1 here. Let's add a break here. Then h1 here. Courses offered. Then we have h2. We're going to have science. We're going to have, just copy this. So let's do science, math, coding, and reading. They're also taking up unnecessary space, so let's compact it a bit more. Goodness. Quick save, I reload. And now we see STEMBridge offering free courses forever. Courses offered, and we have all of these courses offered, right? Now, let's give each of these courses a description. For science, I'm going to say paragraph, really cool science. I'm just going to kind of copy this here. Really cool numbers. Really cool computers. Then here it's going to be really cool words. Okay. Quick save, I reload. Now we can see each of these has its own paragraph description. Science is really cool science. Math is really cool numbers. Coding is really cool computers. Reading is really cool words. Now I want to change the font of only these texts, right, that are inside of here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say h2 plus p, and then I'm going to change that. I'm going to change only that, and let's change the font family again. Let's change it to sans serif again. So this website's going to look pretty ugly. That's okay. I just want to showcase. So now we see courses offered, and we see just the paragraph tags that are after the h2 tags are affected, right? So if this paragraph tag is after the h2, so it's affected, it has a different font. But this paragraph tag is after an h1, not an h2, so it stays the same. All right. Now let's say for each specific class, I want to change the color of the text just for that class. I'm not sure what that noise was. I thought I disabled unmuting.
Oh.
Am I the only one who heard that? Whoever's unmuted, if you could just mute. Okay, anyways, so let's go back. Okay, so we have this page, right? What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So let's say I want to change the color of this text, science text, right? And I want each of these like courses to kind of be separate. So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna say class equals, not class. Oh yeah, class. Class equals science, right? I'm gonna do that for all of these. This is the wrong one. Okay. Over here, I'm gonna go class equals science. I'm gonna put that in all the things where I want it to be. So just those two things. I'm gonna save. I'm gonna go dot science. Let's say I change the color to green, the color of the text, right? Save, reload. Now we can see that that text is green. But that was tedious, right? I mean, in this case, it was only two things. But one thing, it makes your code look, it's going to make it harder to track. Second, it's just tedious overall, right? So what if instead we put everything in a div? So let's do that. So do you guys see what I just did there? Let me do Shift Tab. So I'm going to first put a div around it, right? But now this looks really wacky, right? Because these are all on the same line. And these are children of the div, so they shouldn't be on the same line. This isn't going to affect the functionality, but it's not good to look at. It's going to make the code structure more confusing, right? So let's select all of this. And if you press tab, then it's going to tab. And then we go over to styles.css. We click save, reload, nothing happened yet, right? Let's go over to styles.css. And let's select the div element, right? Div tag. And then we say color is blue. I save, I reload. And now we can see math is blue, really cool numbers. And I didn't have to do any sorts of classes, right? But maybe I don't want to select all the divs because I want other things to be divs too, right? I want this to be in a div. I want coding to be in a div, right? And I also want reading to be in a div. I want all these things to be in a div. And what's going to happen now is that all the divs are blue. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to name this div. I'm going to give it the ID math. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say hashtag math. I'm going to make the color blue, and I'm going to get rid of this. Now what's going to happen? Only math is going to be blue, right? The rest of them, they're normal. But what about the background? I don't want the text to actually be blue, okay? What if I want the text to be black, like normal, but I want the background to be blue? I want it to be a box. I want every single course to be in a separate box, okay? So what I'm going to do is change this so it says background color. I click save, I reload. And let's say blue is too strong, so I'll go cyan. I'll reload, and we can see now the background is blue, not the actual text, right? So that's the cool thing about divs. You can change the actual background color. Now, what about a span? What if this was a span instead? Let's change this from a div to a span. So again, remember this isn't going to affect the whatchamacallit. This isn't going to affect this because it's only selecting the ID, not the tag, right? But is there going to be a background color? Can you guys put predictions in the chat? Yes or no background color? Also, we might go slightly over time today. Sorry about that. So there's going to be no background color. Why? Because spans work differently from divs. They work to apply that. I'm going to click save. I reload. And now we see there's no background color anymore because we use a span. A span is used not to give it background color. Like spans are used much less often than divs are. And let me give you a reason why. Let's say this, I want to change this cool. I want to make it the font size of cool bigger, right? So I put it in a span, right? I put cool in a span. And it's in the same paragraph as the other things. And I go over here, I do span, and I say color is not color, let's say um let's say the font size is going to be 40 pixels. It's going to be huge, okay? I click save, I reload. And now we see cool is really big, right? Really cool numbers, and it's huge. So that I'm only affecting one word inside of that. So that's mainly what the span tag is used for. Otherwise, I use divs, right? So yeah, let's give the other ones class names too, or not IDs. So I say this is ID coding. This is ID reading. And I'm going to make the background color of coding pink and reading yellow, right? So background color of coding is going to be pink. The background color of reading is going to be yellow. I click save, I reload. And now we see nice segments here. This is coding, it's pink, reading is yellow. So that's what we use divs for. And divs are used everywhere, right? Literally everywhere. Let's go to the STEMBridge webpage, for example. Let's go over to inspect element. I believe we did this before. I zoom in, right? Literally, you see this box right here? It says local class times. We select it. Turns out it's a div, right? It says div right there. We go here, it's a div. Everywhere you see is div, right? So literally everything, usually in HTML websites, are in divs. Usually even inside of a body tag. So usually, not always, but what I like to do is even inside of the body tag, we put a div. So everything is inside of a div that's inside of a body tag. You don't have to do that, but a lot of people do that because it just makes things a lot easier, right? Divs are amazing. And there are a lot more styles for divs that we didn't cover. And I also showed this to the last class, so I'll show it to you guys. W3 Schools, right? Amazing resource. I go to W3 Schools. I go to CSS. There's a bunch of things I can do here. So for example, padding, right? Everything looks too clustered. I want to add some padding. So I want to add some padding around the divs. So I go here. I want this to happen to all the divs. So I say div, right? I select div. And then I say padding. And I say 5 pixels maybe. I click save, I reload. And now look, there's padding around the div, so it's not super clustered, right? It's not super clusters. And now look, they're all on top of each other. So there's another thing called margins, right? There's margins. So you can explore these yourself to see what kind of styles you want on your website. Margin, and I say 5 pixels. Let's say margin top. I don't want it to be margin all around. Or I do want it to be margin all around, okay? Because right now it's literally hugging the web page. I click save, I reload. And now you see everywhere it has like a little bit of a margin. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it 15 pixels. Reload. And now we see, look at that. Look at that. It's smaller. It's like in the middle. It looks better, right? Now let's say I want it to be rounded. You see the STEMBridge divs, they're rounded. There's also should be one for rounding. Where is that? Outline, is it? Uh, Rounded corners. Here's rounded corners, right? So I say border radius. So again, there's a bunch of things. Don't be scared just because it says CSS advanced, right? It's fine. You can use CSS Advanced. You go over to div, we click border radius, we say, let's say 7 pixels. Click save, I reload, and now we see that all our divs are rounded and they're all nicely segmented and everything is separate, right? So this is an amazing way to style your web pages. Everyone uses divs. It's literally like a game changer. We have 1 minute left, so I think that is all we have for today. The recording is also going to be available. Let me stop the live share.